If you're preparing your own taxes, you're probably wondering which tax software is the best for preparing an accurate return without costing you more money than necessary. I tried out 3 options to tell you which one I think is the best. Hi, I'm Cindy from Smart Family Money. I help you learn how to shop smarter, save money, and save time so you can get back to changing the world. If you've seen some of my other videos, you already know that I'm a mom on a budget. But you might not know that I've also worked as a professional tax preparer. I've prepared returns of people with low incomes, with high incomes, with lots of investments, with small businesses, people who lived in multiple states, and all kinds of tax situations. I've seen enough tax returns to know what kind of software is going to work for most people. To test these tax preparation options, I used the same sample tax forms on all the software so that I can make a fair comparison between them. In this video, I'm going to compare TurboTax, H&R Block Online, and Free Tax USA. I also have individual review videos on all of these softwares coming out soon, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of them. Before we dive into the details of all these different software, let's talk about what they have in common. All of these tax softwares have gone through the IRS e-file system. What that means is the IRS has approved that they are safe and secure for use with your tax information. The other thing all these options have in common is that they should give you the same number at the end. Tax software is really just a big calculator. Unless you're putting in different numbers into the different software, they should all come out with the same exact refund. The only reason you might come up with a different number with one instead of another is maybe if one reminded you about something that you forgot to enter. For example, if you had paid student loan interest and the software reminded you to enter it, that would give you a different answer at the end. If you really want to double check your numbers, you could do your taxes in more than one software since they're all free to start. And then you could have extra assurance that you got the right number. Since I did use the same tax forms on all 3 tax softwares, I was able to see that I did get the same exact refund amount in all 3 tax softwares. I also wanted to point out that there were some big changes with personal income taxes with the new law that was passed in late 2017. The biggest change with the new tax law is that 90% of Americans are now using the standard deduction instead of itemizing their deductions. What this means in practical purposes is you're not going to have to enter things like your charitable donations, medical expenses, mortgage interest, or real estate taxes. Now keep in mind that there are some states that allow deductions for those items even if they weren't claimed on your federal taxes. For example, in my state of Ohio, you can claim a deduction for medical expenses on your state taxes even if that was not claimed on your federal taxes. All right, now let's take a look at the difference between these 3 tax systems and what it's going to look like in real life. When you're getting started in these tax systems, all 3 of them will let you upload a PDF of your 1040 from last year if you didn't use their tax software last year. This really helps give you a nice, easy starting place, and it's nice that all 3 offer this option. As you work through entering your tax information, all 3 of these tax softwares are going to walk you through with questions. Things like, are you married? Do you have any children? And they're just going to walk you through everything. Now, the interface on TurboTax and H&R Block are definitely a little more simple, a little more friendly looking, a little more pretty than Free Tax USA, which is definitely more bare bones and simple looking. While TurboTax and H&R Block might look a little friendlier, I actually found it was easier to navigate around Free Tax USA's simple no-frills approach. They just list out all the possible forms you might need, and I felt like it was really easy to figure out if I've entered everything I needed to put in. Sometimes with TurboTax or H&R Block, I felt like it was difficult to find any of the less common forms. I felt like I really had to dig to find where I should enter those. When it comes to entering W-2s, TurboTax definitely has the most options. You could potentially download it from your employer if they participate in the system, or you can upload a PDF, or you can scan it with your phone, or you can type the information in. H&R Block also has a program to download from certain employers. They don't have an upload option, but of course you can also type it in with them. On Free Tax USA, you only have the option to type in your W-2. After W-2s, you're probably going to have a few other types of income forms, like for bank interest or dividends. On TurboTax, you have the option to actually download those forms directly from your bank or investment company. Or you can upload a PDF, or you can type it directly in. H&R Block or Free Tax USA only have options to type those sorts of forms in. While it might seem like an advantage that you can upload or download them from your bank with TurboTax, these forms are usually very simple, and it actually involves just typing in 1 or 2 numbers, so I don't really see that as a big advantage. The next thing you might need to do is to enter your various deductions. As I mentioned earlier, 90% of Americans are now using the standard deduction, so most of these don't apply to people anymore. TurboTax does offer its deductible, which is very nice for figuring out the value of things like donated clothes and household items, and a lot of people really like this feature. But as I said, it's usually not that useful now, but if you did want it, its deductible is actually available outside of TurboTax completely free regardless of which tax preparation software you use. Other deductions like the student loan interest deduction and credits like the child care tax credit were all really easy to do on all of the programs. You might be wondering what sort of information you can get if you have questions along the way. All 3 of these tax software offer plenty of explanation to explain your taxes along the way. I did like some of the information from TurboTax. They had a nice video that explained what a standard deduction is. But overall, I felt like all 3 offered you plenty of information. Some of the things I liked in Free Tax USA is there was a little question mark next to each box on most of the forms, and you could pop that up and find out more information about what that box was about. Also, they had a section called Where Do I Enter?, where you could look up every type of form and click on it, and it would take you right to the page where you would enter that form into your tax return. Now let's take a look at the costs. This is an area where there's a huge difference between the 3. The deluxe version of TurboTax, which is their most popular, is regular price $110 for a federal and state return. It is currently on sale for $80 for federal and state. TurboTax does offer a free version for simple returns, but even with that one, they're constantly offering different options to upgrade. And so it's pretty hard to get out of there without actually spending money. H&R Block's cost for deluxe was a little bit less than TurboTax's. It's $87 regularly or $67 on their current sale. TurboTax and H&R Block do feel like very similar products, so this is definitely a lower price for about the same kind of product. With H&R Block though, the upselling was even more aggressive than it was with TurboTax. With their free edition, they really pushed you to upgrade to their Plus option for $30, and if you didn't upgrade, they don't even save your tax forms to the next year. Free Tax USA is by far the least expensive. All federal forms are free on Free Tax USA, and that includes truly everything. Even if you have a small business, if you have rental properties, a farm, it doesn't matter how many forms you need, they are all free for federal forms. You do have to pay with Free Tax USA if you want to file your state return with them. The regular price is $14.99, and it's currently on sale for $12.95. And for most people, that is really all you have to pay. Less than $15 to be totally done with your tax return. Free Tax USA does have a little bit of upselling, but they're for really inexpensive upgrades. Their deluxe support is $6.99, and you can order a printed copy of return for $6.99 or a bound copy of your return for $12.99. Even if you chose all the most expensive upgrades with Free Tax USA, you would still only spend about $35, which is less than only a state return with either H&R Block or TurboTax. It's just crazy how much cheaper it is. You've probably guessed that my recommendation for best tax software is Free Tax USA. It doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, but I think it does an excellent job of preparing an accurate tax return for a reasonable price. You might be a little nervous about trying a no-name tax company, but it has to pass the same security protocols as the big names. I'm going to include my affiliate link to Free Tax USA down below, and I do make a small commission if you purchase something through that link. But I would completely be recommending it even if I didn't make any money with it. I have been personally using Free Tax USA for several years for my family. It's done a great job, and I really hope you'll give it a try too. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.